Hey there, writers. I am so excited to talk to you today about some strategies and tips for gathering and synthesizing your notes as you're kind of finishing reading one, maybe two articles now and really thoroughly note taking on what you are reading. So I want to talk to you about how you can categorize to create a big picture and kind of help organize your ideas. So you're getting a whole lot of new and a lot of detailed information, right? In order to appropriately put it back out into the world and share it with others, it has to be organized. So instead of just trying to memorize all these facts and make a list, right? We want to categorize this information. So we want to take that list, look at what we have, and ask ourselves, but what category does this fall under? What question is this helping answer? So I'm going to talk to you about situations where using that skill is going to be helpful and kind of remind you of what you need to be doing. So I'm going to be researching coral reefs. If you can recall, in my research of coral reefs, I really was focusing on trying to answer a few specific questions, right? Because coral reefs is such a broad, big idea. There's so many little things that can fall underneath that category. So I'm doing coral reefs, but I also am focusing on these few questions. Why are they so important? Why are they dying? And how can we help them? So I found this really great graphic novel on coral reefs, but I'm kind of struggling with it because it's giving me a ton of really great information, but there's some text features lacking in it that are making it a little challenging for me to figure out exactly where I need to be placing my information on this. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about it, and hopefully you can kind of help me through figuring out how to categorize some of this information. So here's an example of what I'm talking about here. I have my book open to chapter 5. This is kind of the only hint, the only header I'm getting that's giving me a hint at what this chapter is about. Little Reefs, Big Planet, Challenges, Changes, and Taking Charge. So that's giving me a hint of which question I'm going to answer, but I'm going to read on and figure out what information it's giving me to figure out how I can group it. So we've studied coral as an animal, learned how reefs are formed, and we've seen the incredible biodiversity they can sustain. But life on Earth is not always easy. Oh no, say it ain't so. Don't worry, we're learning about these challenges so we can better protect you. First up, climate change. Also referred to as global warming, climate change is something that affects the whole planet. In order to understand how climate change is a challenge for a coral reef, we have to understand what climate is. Okay, so in my mind, I'm categorizing information. How can we help? How can we save them? Why are they dying? Which question is that answering? Yeah, I think it's answering why are they dying. So let's read on and figure out how that's working. So climate refers to a long-term pattern of weather in a particular area or region. So for instance, this fish lives in a tropical climate, so he doesn't need the scarf, the mittens. The climate can be different for different regions. Okay, the seasons, Wisconsin's a little bit different, so you have to dress differently. Oh, this is making sense to me. I think I understand where they're going. But an increase in warming has happened, and that's what leads to climate change. Long-term averages of daily weather. Research and data shows that there's some information about climate change we need to know. Human activities have been putting a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and some of those things cause things like volcanic eruptions. This is all really good information, but I'm kind of skimming to figure out, like, how does this affect coral reefs? Because I have some background on climate change. So how does it affect coral reefs? Coral bleaching. Remember that symbiotic relationship. Whoa, there's some big words in there. Let me read on and see if I can kind of decipher around them. So temperature change is 1 degree can upset the balance that is long established. So we have temperature changes in the oceans. Because they're used to a certain temperature. That makes sense. So eventually it's going to be, so we have coral bleaching, ocean acidification, the animals around it. So when carbon dioxide is absorbed in the water, it changes the way the water around it is created. So I have a couple of new vocabulary words in here. So let me go ahead and reshare with you what I've been doing on my notes. And forgive me, my computer is moving terribly slow. We have climate Chan, not like Jackie Chan. We're talking about climate change. So I have a few ideas about climate change that I'm going to add in here. But do you notice as I read, I kind of made my own box and bullets. Now I'm going to go back and alter these notes to kind of get organized. So remember, I want to teach you today that sometimes the passage isn't going to very clearly tell you your boxes and bullets. You're going to have to read a little bit and figure out how can I group this information and what is the main point of this group of information. So I have ocean acidification. Also impacts corals. This is the process of water being ruined by carbon dioxide. So these things cause corals to live shorter lives and die sooner. Okay, so now I'm going to my main point. I got the idea that this was giving me some ideas about how climate change impacts it. So climate change can cause corals to die for many reasons. Climate change means that the Earth is getting warmer, but corals can't adapt like people do, right? I remember in the beginning, I was kind of talking about like you put on a coat when it's cold. Like, how does a coral put on a coat, right? They can adapt, but that probably takes forever. That's my own idea. I can probably add it at the end there. But I want to teach you that sometimes your boxes and bullets are going to be a little challenging to stand out. So use some other strategies and tools. Start with your bullets. Start listing information you feel is important and then categorize, asking yourself if it's what they all have in common. It's also really helpful to continuously review your 3 questions, your 3 subtopics to make sure that you're actually taking notes on information that's important to you. All right, so keep researching, keep taking notes. Eventually, we're going to get to that point where we'll really fully synthesize and bring it together. But for now, happy reading.